which is, not the beginner class. Apparently the beginner class had too much people in it, so I had no choice but to enter Pro 2, right? So I ain't entering with the mindset to win, because I have so many good drivers here. I just want to set up the limits of me and the car, and hopefully competition brings out an element in me that, it brings out an element, experience or something, brings out some better way to drive or something. So it's a learning experience. I'm trying to remember to have fun. I'm saying, don't get into me. Right? I'm going out.
Here goes Marion Munchies taking off.
I wondered what was wrong with me.
I'm making you a video, yes?
Everybody who has been at drift games and who heard about drift games and who would like to go, you would probably expect something, and unfortunately, this is not that. This video is not going to be as exciting as all the other drift games videos that has come before, unfortunately, because drift games for me was a very different experience to everybody else. Although it was a real good event, everybody's saying it's a 10 out of 10 event, and I went and I really enjoyed myself as well. Really and truly, even if Pro 3 wasn't full, I would have spent more money and gone in Pro 2 or Pro 1. Because as much as I was able to compete in that class, I didn't think it would have taught me anything new. I wasn't too bummed about not being able to enter into Pro 3. I wanted to do a whole new layout anyhow, and Pro 3 was basically like 2 donuts, a figure 8, a big circle, and then so I really and truly wanted to do a layout because last year I went to games last year and I watched that layout and I was like, I can do that today. And I came a year later and didn't do it. And a lot of it has to do with my performance, yes. There was also things that was on the car side that could have made things a lot easier. The night before, Andrea and I were doing some work on the Laurel. You can stop. She's still looking, man. Oh God, I don't reach. Andrew found a massive exhaust leak by the resonator that stole so much power to the point where the car wouldn't even do a one spot. It wouldn't even do like a one spot burnout. Andrew ended up finding a wet spot like the fittings on the hydro, and so the hydro was leaking, and he just tightened it up a little bit, tightened up the fitting to see if it would leak some more, and it didn't leak. But we didn't know if the hydro had failed, because of lack of pressure, or if it was failing or on the way to failure, But with all that being said, I could have still said, I'm not going and do the event because I didn't spend any money yet this Saturday. But I had already made up my mind that I was going to go to the event. I had already talked to David Passat and said I was coming, so I just followed through, and I really wanted to do the event as well. When I talked to Jared, after the event about all the things that I went through, he made fun of me and thing, but then we stopped and we watched clips that I had from Drift Games, and we talked about what went wrong, what could have went wrong, ways that I could have improved, what different techniques I could have employed. And by having a conversation with him, I thought that, hey, maybe I should share this new information with you all so that you all could see that it's not, just perfection, There's a whole lot of things that could go wrong, a whole lot of things you have to learn, and I hope that, you all could grow with me while, are gradually getting better at this thing. Let's watch a few clips that I have and let's try to see if we can analyze it and see what we could pull from it, good and bad, so that's how moving forward we can improve.
Hi, good day, Mr. Marion.
Oh, good on.
We're gonna wait to
I feel it.
see outside then.
Huh?
See outside then. See outside.
What happened? On the line, I wasn't feeling too confident in my abilities or the car's ability, so I turned up the RPM all the way because I wasn't sure how the car would feel, and I dumped the clutch, and then I made a right turn, and then I left it. Instead of the back swinging, it kind of looked, based on the video here, that it, like if the car just made an aggressive right turn and aggressive left turn. Immediately, one of the problems I ran into when I was making the left turn, I felt back right wheel hit something. It hit it real aggressively. I heard a bang, and then the suspension felt unsettled, and I heard like clunks, and then I let off and I kind of went into the tires. And I didn't know if it was something that was left from my car before, or if it was a partition in the concrete on the ground where the concretes kind of divide, if it had like a ledge or something. But whatever it was, it kind of hit it kind of hard. When I back off now, I run into the tires, and then I like, wait boy, I now run into these tires in front of everybody. Well, I tried to turn around the car don't have no power steer. I tried to dump the clutch, and I was hoping that the back would swing just to help me just a little bit, because the course kind of tight, and I ended up hitting the next tire. And that's how I realized that the car really lacking, because back end gave me no kind of slush, no kind of slip. You know, it just kind of made an aggressive forward turn instead of rotating the way I wanted it to. At this point, I'll try to make the right turn again, another right turn, and that's where you're heading towards the barrel, which is like a donut point. So I ran up aggressively on the barrel. I built up some kind of momentum, and I pulled the hydro. The hydro didn't lock. When I pulled the hydro was before the barrel, and when the car actually started to slide, like the back started to swing out, was far after the back. When I went back on the gas to do the donut around the barrel, it kind of bogged down, and that's why I was like, wait, this car really feeling under the weather. Because it's already sideways, the RPM supposed to shoot up, but instead it just went like around 5k. Well, I don't have no working gauge, so I can't really tell. But it sung, like it went and then it gradually started to build RPM. And I was like, well, already here, finish the barrel and then make the right turn. I saw a flaw in my technique, because when I made the right turn after the barrel, from watching clips of the other drivers, they were kicking the clutch immediately after passing the wall of tire that they were slipping, they were kicking the clutch. So the transition immediately. Whereas I thinking to myself that the car underpowered, I have to keep the RPM all the way up to keep it drifting. I went in and I went around the tire. Instead of letting off to let it transition, I kind of was hoping for the car to eventually weight transfer into a transition, and it ended up doing it kind of late, and by that time I was facing that barrel, so I just mashed the brakes and stopped in front of the barrel. I didn't want to hit anything. That's the end of the clip. Now I actually continued and I went around the big circle, and I didn't drift that one because in my mind, starting a drift that wasn't aggressively sharp to throw the weight around, or well, doing a shallow drift just wasn't going to work because the car wasn't feeling like if it wanted to do it. I didn't try. So I went around the big circle, and then I had to go into a tight circle, And instead of going inside to go and do the barrel, I didn't bother because I built up momentum and I pulled the handbrake and she didn't lock again to go inside the big circle. It didn't have much to the course after those major points. I just called it then and I just went back to the pits. This clip is actually a recording of my third and final run. I only got 3 runs and I didn't get a recording of my second run. To give you a little bit of insight, I paid $300 for 5 runs, which was 2 practice runs and 3 official competition runs. I only got 2 practice and 1 official. The officials at the event thought that our category was taking way too long, so they cut down on everybody run, and then on top of that, they telling you, if you mess up, kill the run and come right back to the pitting area. So this was my last run. Now on my second and third run, from observing the other drivers, the drivers who were clearly better, they were employing a lot more clutch kicks. So I said to myself, you know, to keep the power up, I'll have to clutch kick. I'll have to full RPM clutch kick. I launched with full RPM like before, like on the first run. When making the left turn, I'll clutch kick again to keep the RPM up. And from the second clip, it actually looks like if I'm drifting and the car is moving sideways, you know. In the second and third run, I didn't feel like if the suspension was unsettled or the wheel didn't hit anything. So whatever it was, I kind of either drove around it or it wasn't there. With that being said, even though that I started better than the first time, I had so much grip and so much momentum, the car just kind of flicked and did a full 180 instead of going around the corner and going under the container. And at that point, I had already in my mind thought that, you know, the hydro wasn't working, so I wasn't going to use it. I never thought about any way in which it would work for me to use it. So for the second run, I clutch kick and the car whip around. So I said, well, maybe if I clutch kick sooner, maybe it wouldn't happen like that. And well, on my third run, clutch kick and then it whipped around the same way. So I didn't really figure out what I was doing wrong to go under the container, but I really, from watching Xterboard had some clips right in front of the container. I'll show you those clips. From observing everybody else was kind of slowing down to make that right turn to go under the container, whereas I essentially with the clutch kick I was speeding up. So I was already carrying so much speed, so much momentum, and then I clutch kick and I was sending more speed, more momentum, and I just over-rotate, overcook it basically. In those second and third runs, you were saying, well, if you mess up, come back to the pits. I didn't really have enough time to really progress per se, because I think if I had my fourth and my fifth run, I would have probably tried pulling the handbrake. Even though I kind of figured it wouldn't work, I would probably still try to pull the handbrakes to slow down the car, just enough to carry the car under the container. If I had gotten underneath the containers, I would have been content, but I feel like I failed myself because I feel like the car was fully capable of doing the course. It just meant that I'd have to drive a lot harder than everybody else. I'd have to do like a perfect run, because I felt like if I was to stop drifting, the car just wouldn't have the power to start back drifting. I still feel like we learned a lot. So from this point on, we'll make some changes, we'll practice some things, and we will get better. Alright, so takeaway, there are things that we have to work on, both on me myself, which is technique and and I also have some software tweak on the Laurel. A lot of things like I'd have to fix the exhaust for sure, fix the hydro for sure. That would make the car way more well equipped to deal with that competition. A lot of the competitors, they had a lot more power than me, and they were running way slimmer tires. So say like I run a 225 45-17 or 215 45-17, they were running something like 205 40s or 215 40s, right? And for us, Twisted Kid, he actually recommended that I do the same, and I downgrade my tire size to a 205 40 and then send up the tire pressure to like 40 or 45 to make it a lot easier to drift, like to spin. He also recommended that I upsize the gear ratio of the diff. Instead of having a 3.9 diff, I'll put in like a 4.1 diff or a 4.3 diff. But I think I already have a 4.1 or 4.3 diff in the rear, so I don't really think I need to change that. But for sure, in terms of tire size, I'm going to be downgrading to a 205 45. The reason why I usually run 225 45 or 215 45s is because at a tire shop, you would get those readily available for use. And those tires would cost like about $250, $275 for a tire. Whereas the 205 40s or the 215 40s, you usually had to get a brand new, and brand new is like $400 a tire. So I ain't really running that kind of dust. But I will still take the time and make the changes to make it easier to drift, to be a little bit more competitive. From observing the other drivers, I'd have to practice more clutch kicks. Me personally, I don't like clutch kicking. It's not my style. And the reason for that is because when I was now starting drifting with the Laurel, every time I clutch kick, something broke. Either I break the clutch pedal, I break the clutch pedal bracket, I mash up the slave cylinder, I mash up the clutch master. I always in the part shop buying new slave piston, new master piston, rebuild kits. Right, a slave is like $35, clutch master is like $70 to $105, and I always buying that right through. And that is from me not clutch kicking, just driving the car regular. So I have a phobia for kicking the clutch, but it's something that I'll have to adjust and practice if I want to be more versatile. Another thing I had to practice as well too is that when I put in the handbrakes and you're clutching, it's how the clutching and pull the handbrakes, I doesn't be moderating or feathering the throttle to keep up RPMs. So that's how when you come off the handbrake and you come off the clutch, you can already at the RPM it needs to just keep going. Usually when I pull the handbrakes and I clutch in, I just come off the gas completely, and that is it does work. Like, I haven't been in much situations where it hasn't worked, but it's a lot better if you would modulate the throttle. It's a lot better for continuity and RPMs, and it'd just be a lot smoother. Another thing, KJ recommended that I practice full throttle drifting, so I get acquainted to how the car does behave at full RPM, transitioning at full RPM, initiating at full RPM. So that's how if I ever in a situation where I need full RPM to overcome the grip, I would already be aware of how the car would behave. So that's another thing I could practice as well too. With that being said, I hope you all learn as much as I did. I'm still glad to be able to have this exchange with you all, and I hope you all enjoyed it too. Really and truly, I made the video so that when I make changes to the car and to the setup, I wouldn't have to come back and explain it in those videos. I'll just make the changes and you all would understand. So with that being said, I hope you all enjoyed the video. Leave a like, subscribe, share, and until next time.
Yeah. Love. Yeah. Bittersweet. I just be vibing on a beat. Like my girl stick with tea. Gotta be